Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let me tell you the story about the time our OP's boss learned the hard way that pregnant employees aren't pushovers. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Do what's best for the team, they said. This happened last year. I, female 31, was 1 week away from my due date and was working full-time in a school administration position. At this time, I had the capability to work from home if needed. Example, too sick to come into work, catch up on extra work, unable to secure daycare for my child, etc. When I accepted the position, prior to my pregnancy, I was told by my boss, let's call her Ronnie, that it was very flexible as long as I got my hours in. I very rarely worked from home and typically only did so for an hour or two in the morning if it was needed later on in order to work before OB/GYN appointments, as it was a long commute between work and home/doctor's office. However, I was told by Ronnie after accepting the position to try to limit work from home to 2 days a month, which, fine. At this point, I was well under since I was only working an hour or two, maybe twice a month, and only once a month before that. Being so close to my due date, I was experiencing physical hardships that made working on site more and more difficult, such as dizzy spells, a pulled tendon in my foot, and severe back pain. I was also scared of potentially going into labor while at work, with it being so far away from the hospital my OB/GYN delivers at. To top it all off, my coworkers started asking more invasive questions about my pregnancy that made me uncomfortable. All in all, it was not a fun time. I explained all of this in an email to Ronnie and asked for her permission to almost exclusively work from home up until I go into labor. I said I thought it would be a reasonable accommodation and I work really well from home. Ronnie responded a couple of days later denying my request to work from home at all and said I needed to be there since we would be starting some of our busiest work in a couple of months, which I would be gone for on maternity leave anyway, so I'm not sure why she brought it up. But I could talk to HR about leave options if I'm truly having trouble working. By the way, it's illegal in my state to require an employee to take leave if there's a reasonable accommodation that can be made instead. Cue malicious compliance. I immediately went to HR and did just that. We talked about options and found out I could start my leave the very next day and still be paid state mandatory leave pay for the extra time. I informed Ronnie that I would be out starting the next day as I needed to take care of myself. She said, I understand you need to do what's best for you, but you need to understand that I need to do what's best for the team. So yeah, everything I normally managed basically went to crap in my absence as the other people on the team weren't qualified to do the work and kept taking time off leading up to my due date instead of learning the basics while I was still there to teach them. I left detailed procedure notes and workflow lists, but I later found out Ronnie had to pick up all the extra work, and a lot of it never got done since she didn't have time. But it was best for the team, right, boss? I need to do what's best for the team. Spoken like a true subhuman trash. Management like this want to be toxic and find excuses to justify it instead of doing the humane thing. And our second story. You said no exceptions. So I didn't make one. Years ago, I worked for a small company that desperately wanted to act like it was running with the big dogs in the Fortune 500 world. In reality, we had maybe 30 to 40 employees tops, but the husband and wife duo who owned the place ran it like it was a multinational corporation. They micromanaged every little detail, created layers of policies that seemed more about control than function, and constantly hired underqualified people while still expecting top-tier results. The phrase, do more with less, wasn't just a motto, it was practically a religion there. One of their most infamous policies was the mandatory 40 hours rule. The premise was simple. If you missed any time between Monday and Friday, didn't matter the reason, you had to make it up on Saturday, no exceptions. Sick kid, too bad. Doctor's appointment, doesn't matter. Car broke down, still doesn't count. And if you didn't come in to make up the hours, you'd get a strike. 3 strikes and you were out the door. Now, most of us knew the rule was ridiculous, but we didn't have much of a choice. Jobs in the area were slim at the time, and people didn't want to risk getting booted over what management considered insubordination. So one week, I had to leave work 30 minutes early for a personal appointment. No big deal, I thought. I made sure to clear it ahead of time with my on-site supervisor, who was actually a pretty decent guy. He knew I was reliable and didn't blink twice. He just said, "Yeah, that's fine. You've been killing it this week." But on Friday afternoon, I got a call from the wife owner, aka the queen of micromanagement. Her tone was flat, formal, and annoyingly self-important. Her, "Just calling to confirm you'll be in tomorrow." Me, "Oh, I only left a half hour early on Wednesday. I spoke with my supervisor." Her, "Doesn't matter. The rule is 40 hours, no exceptions." Me, "It was literally just 30 minutes. Her, "You'll need to be here. If you're not, it's a strike. Those are the rules." Now, I could have argued more, but I knew better. This was the kind of place where logic went to die, so I smiled, said, "Okay, see you then," and started cooking up my little plan. Saturday morning rolls around. I show up at 7 a.m. sharp for roll call. It was one of those work sites where everyone had to check in before assignments were handed out. There were maybe 15 of us that day, standing around with coffee in hand and that "why are we here" look in our eyes. Our on-site boss starts going down the list, handing out jobs left and right. I deliberately hung back in the group, waiting until he got to me last. It's about 7:25 when he finally reaches me. "Boss, okay, I've got something for you." Me, "Actually, I'll be heading out in 5 minutes. Boss, blinking, "Wait, what? You just got here." Me, "Yep, I was told I had to work my full 40 hours this week or get a strike. I missed 30 minutes on Wednesday, so I'm making it up now." Boss, "You could stay and get some overtime, though. We could really use the help." Me, "Totally get that, but I'm not required to work overtime. I was told to hit exactly 40 hours. So once 7:30 hits, I'm out. Got plans." And that's exactly what I did. As soon as the clock ticked to 7:30, I grabbed my things, waved goodbye, and strolled off the job site. I had a great Saturday, breakfast with friends, caught a movie, and spent the rest of the day actually relaxing. Come Monday, the disappointed parent act began. I got pulled into the office for a little chat with both owners. They sat me down, faces long and voices full of faux concern. Husband owner, "We're just really disappointed in the choice you made Saturday. That wasn't the kind of team attitude we expect here." Wife owner, "We hoped you'd take the initiative to support your coworkers instead of leaving right when you could have made a difference." I let them say their piece, nodded politely, then replied, "I was just following the policy you created. 40 hours, no exceptions. I did exactly that." They didn't have a comeback. A couple weeks later, that idiotic policy magically disappeared. No announcement, no explanation. They just stopped enforcing it. Probably realized how ridiculous it was when employees started following it too literally. Malicious compliance at its finest. Sometimes the best way to kill a bad policy is to do exactly what they say. To the letter. Very nicely played. You made up your half hour. "We're disappointed you didn't stay to help." Oh man, I'm disappointed they don't expect you to have a life outside of work. What is it with these middle management robots who see working as the only thing that people exist for? And our last story. Karen stole my boat. There's this woman who lives 3 doors down from our lake house. Let's call her Karen. It's fitting. She's always been loud, nosy, and just a little too invested in everyone's business. For the most part, she's been more of a mild annoyance than anything. That is, until this summer. My family's owned this lakefront property for close to 15 years. It's nothing flashy, just a cozy place with a private dock, a solid pontoon boat, and enough space to have friends over on long weekends. I live a few hours away, so I'm only there a couple times a month. But I take care of the place, keep it maintained, pay my lake association dues, and I've always kept things cordial with the neighbors. Karen and I have exchanged small talk maybe a dozen times over the years. She once knocked on my door to warn me about some teens fishing near her side of the water. Eye roll stuff. I'd nod, thank her, and then go back to grilling. So when I rolled in for the 4th of July weekend, ready to relax, float, and fire up the barbecue, I was not expecting the gut punch that hit me the second I pulled into the driveway. My boat was gone. The ropes were still tied neatly to the cleats like someone had respectfully unlocked and just taken off. For a second I thought maybe I'd forgotten to secure it or it drifted, but that made no sense. I'm borderline obsessive about double-checking that dock. Something was off. So I pulled out my phone, opened up the Lake Association's public dock cam, and started scrubbing through the footage. Didn't take long. A few days earlier, I spotted someone strolling right down my dock, untying my boat, and motoring off like they owned it. It was Karen. At first, I figured it had to be a mistake, but then I checked the outdoor camera I'd installed by the back porch last fall. Clear as day, Karen walking into my boathouse, grabbing the keys from behind the panel where I usually hide them, and waltzing right back out. I called the sheriff's office right then and there. They said they'd send someone out, but since the boat wasn't physically in her possession at the moment, it'd be tricky. I told them I had video footage. They agreed to loop in Lake Patrol to keep an eye out. Didn't take long. The very next day, just after I finished lunch on the deck, I heard the hum of my motor coming around the bend. I stood up. There she was, Karen, full late diva mode. Sunglasses, sarong, drink in hand, like she was starring in some Instagram post titled #blessed. I walked down to the dock, waited until she pulled up, and said calmly, "You want to explain what the hell you're doing on my boat, Karen?" She looked surprised for a moment, then snapped right back into that smug tone. "It was just a quick ride. I didn't think you'd be back until Sunday." "That's not the point. You stole my boat." "We're neighbors. You've let friends use it before." "I've let friends use it with permission. You broke into my boathouse and took my keys." Right on cue, a sheriff's patrol boat pulled up beside us. I waved them over, and one of the officers asked Karen to step off. She tried to act confused, said it was a misunderstanding, that she'd thought it was fine. The officer stayed calm, asked for ID, started taking statements. Then we all looked at the starboard side of the boat. There was a huge gash across the panel. One of the navigation lights was shattered. A cleat was bent sideways like someone had docked with their eyes closed. Karen's face went pale. "Oh, that was already there," she mumbled. "No, it wasn't," I said. "I keep records, every scratch, every tune-up. I've got the receipts." The officers reviewed my security footage, the dock cam footage, took notes, and told me I'd probably need to press charges if I wanted damages. So I did. About a month later, Karen agreed to a settlement, just under $5,000 to avoid criminal charges. Her insurance didn't cover unauthorized use of watercraft, so she paid out of pocket. And I made sure she knew exactly what that money was going toward: repairs and a few upgrades. The next week, I had a contractor install a tall wrought iron gate at the entrance to my dock. Locking latch, motion lights, and just for the cherry on top, I mounted a small plaque to the gate: "Private dock, no trespassing." It's been quiet ever since. Every now and then I catch Karen staring at the gate from her porch like she's trying to will it out of existence. Lesson learned: if someone wants to play dumb and help themselves to your stuff, don't argue. I just don't understand how you can take someone else's boat under the pretext that you're neighbors and hope that there will be no consequences. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.